All right, good evening everyone, and welcome tonight. Tonight is a little different. We're here tonight on behalf of TST. I'm G. Truglia. I'll be walking you through this tool, giving you some good information on scan data. We're looking at a Prius we're connected to right over here. Okay, so we're going to use the OPUS Drive Pro ES. You're going to see this. Now, one thing I do want to tell you, we are actually doing this via the internet from all the way from California, because you're going to see things that you're normally not going to see on your scan tool. So I want you to be aware of that. So let's see what we're going to cover tonight. We're going to talk about some generic stuff. You know, when a vehicle has a problem, all of you guys like to jump into factory tool. You don't need to jump into the factory tool. Okay, and that's what's great about this OPUS ES tool. If you have a problem, you can get into the factory tool. So go to generic first. That'd be your first and best place always to go for drivability, for codes. You've all heard of Mode 6 by now. Mode 10, 2011, mid-year and up. Mode 10 is if someone erased the DTCs, you could find out what the problem is now. So it's pretty damn good, and the front end of this tool, meaning the regular OPUS ES tool, has a lot of that great information in it. We're going to look at it, enhanced functions, PIDS, bi-directional control. We're going to look at graphing, and here's the big part. Here's the difference between your scan tool and this. This is not only a scan tool. This is a diagnostic platform with a bunch of factory techs on the other end. And that is super important. You know that old saying, more heads are better than one? Of course. Because there's always someone out there that knows something I don't know, you don't know, right? So if we put our heads together, it's really a great resource. And these guys can get right on. Now, in case you're wondering, this is the opinion of myself, G. Truglia, and TST. I got to tell you, we've been giving this thing a good ride now for about a year. And we've tried it on all different vehicles, is one of the reasons why we picked this for a TST top 10 tool, okay, because we'll be doing our top 10 tools that with the pandemic we're behind, but this is definitely one of them. In fact, in my personal opinion, okay, this is a must-have tool for a shop. You know why? Because first of all, subscriptions to all the OEM websites are pretty damn expensive. Number two, you don't always need to use a factory tool. Number three, even if you have the factory tool. Now I know my buddy Joel is on here. How are you, Joel? You get something like Otis. Otis can rack your brains, okay? You get something like Vita. Otis is the VW factory tool or Audi tool, and Vita is the Volvo tool. ISTA, BMW, these are all tough tools. Not everything is a Ford IDS or a Honda, or some people even have problems with the GM GDS software, okay? But that's why this is different. You're gonna have a professional come on. We're gonna get to that once we get past the generic end of it. I want you to see what this thing can do. Again, in my personal opinion, I'm not getting paid to say this. I'm telling you God's honest truth. I've even had my apprentice actually call up for help. Get on there, hit the button, they walk them through. He don't know jack. It's his first year in working on cars. Yeah, he works with us, and we got him in the apprentice program and all that stuff, and he really, you know, tries his best. But there's someone with no knowledge. Think what you can do with the knowledge. And I know from doing programming classes for years, I won't mention names, but there's guys on tonight, I recognize your names. You've been in my class, some of you go, you know what? I'm not even gonna try to do that because the last time I did it, I had a problem. Yeah, that's the beauty of having this. The only thing you need besides this tool is a maintainer, because they're gonna walk you through step by step, and that's really important. So we're gonna be doing that, and this webcast will provide you with information on the scan tool, the ability of this tool, and the expert help. So with that being said, we'll talk about the TST big event later. but we are going to get right to the tool. So you're not going to see what I'm showing you right here, because the tool, it's the same as what I have here. Now you'll notice this says it has an update, that says it has an update, it's the exact screen. We are connected a special way. They will do all their stuff in the background on the tool. I'm going to show you what you can see every day on the tool, okay? So I'm going to use the tablet here so I don't have to put my back to you. And we're going to go into the Drive Pro, right here, and we're going to select this Toyota. Now sometimes your screen may get an itsy bit fuzzy as screens are changing, but that's no big deal. We're going to select this Prius 2006. And what in the world happened? Okay, so we are having a technical difficulty from California, Murphy's Law. So we will reconnect here, it looks like. So in the background, you can see my tech support guy is getting on. And he is going to get me back. Look at that. Isn't it nice to have our man right on the phone? So, you know, it's, of course, this is not going to happen in your shop. Nothing went off the tool. I want you to be aware of that. But, you know, 3,000 plus miles away, stuff could happen. So anyway, we're going to go in and we're going to look in the engine, because that's where you want to go, and it's connecting. And of course, there's a delay because we're on the internet. A lot faster if you're not using that. So let me make that clear. The first thing you always want to do is look at fault codes, correct? And again, the camera's going to drive you a little crazy going in and out. We're going to read fault codes. There's no faults, always do that. And you would always look at freeze frame. But now let's take a look in engine at the sensors. We could display all of the sensors right here, and you could see the percentages, the voltages. We could also graph up to 4 of them if we want to graph. So there's a graphing view of it. You can graph up to 4. You could also maximize a graph. You can minimize it. And one of the things you really want to do when you're on this tool, because of all the data, just like anything else, all data PIDS, when you're done looking at all this data that you see here, and you notice I'm scrolling, and there's a lot of information there, okay? Let's go back to the list, and let's do display all so you can see all of that information, right? Look at all that information. So if you have too much information being requested, it is going to slow all your data up. This is just normal of every tool. So we could look at stuff like that, and again, what I want you to do is go right there, stop all sensors. That way, when you go out or go into actuations, to show you, excuse me, what they have on actuations, here's a whole list here of just engine activations. So it's a full-blown scan tool. The nice thing is, it has tech support. Because maybe, even on this end, you're having a problem. You don't know. It's not all the time that you're going to need that factory tool. So let's back out of here and let's look at utilities here. You can do a CAN bus check. You can do check mode. Check mode puts it into a state on Toyotas, and they've done this for years, putting it into a state where they can look for DTCs or problems on a vehicle right away. You can reset memories, you can do VIN programming, and an evap test. And by the way, nothing better than doing the evap test off the scan tool. You know why? Because rather than taking out your smoke machine, okay, or your CO2 or whatever, if it fails here, you know you got a problem. If it doesn't fail from the tool testing it, no need to go pull all that stuff out and waste your time. Always do a section of the tool. We'll go into transmission. So you can go right out of generic stuff and go into enhanced stuff. And of course, we always start with the fault code information. Read fault codes, retrieving information, nothing there. We'll go in the sensors here. We can display all of the information in here. And you're going to notice you have a key signal, a main relay, motor drive, a whole bunch of information, UVW, the 3 phases, because this is a hybrid, okay? So you have quite a bit of information in here. Now again, we're going to stop all sensors. We're going to go out. We're going to go back. And we are going to look at module information. So it's going to tell you the information in that module as well. And we're going to go on to the brake system. Now, let me tell you one thing about this Prius. This is a 2006 Prius. You got to be careful on Gen 2 Priuses. Gen 2 doesn't use a power booster. What they do is they have in the back of the vehicle near the 12-volt battery, and this is an AGM battery in the right rear of the vehicle, they have a bunch of capacitors that are 12-volt capacitors. The power booster is not on this car. You will get roughly about 2 to 3 good stops from the energy that is in those capacitors. So this system is not your typical system where you think you're just going to go in and do a brake job and bleed it. You need to RTFI, read the frickin' information, okay? The reason why you need to do that, if you mess up, it's going to take you a little while to get that brake system back working. There's a stroke sensor, there's regular ABS stuff in there, but the system's a little different. Gen 3, Gen 4, and including Gen 1, they no longer have, they use it in the new ones, and they didn't have it in Gen 1. This was a Gen 2 thing. Again, no power booster, no vacuum, okay? Then you got some utilities here, so you can do a zero calibration, an air bleed, and I must warn you, because I've seen this in a hybrid class, where someone wanted to start doing a brake bleed. And then they decided it was taking too long and you back out. Don't do that. You know the reason why I don't do that? Because something's going to get hung up and you're going to run into a problem. Don't do it. Now, the nice thing here is, if you do get yourself into doo-doo, you can get to the factory side of the tool with help. That's important. But we want to minimize all the help that you're going to need, right? If you know what you're doing, you can learn. And even when the guy takes over your scan tool, when a person takes over your scan tool, watch what they're doing. You know, ask them what was wrong, what did you miss? Because they'll help you through. So you can do a bunch of stuff here, reset memory, signal check, and we're not going to go in and do that because of the sake of time. And we're going to go into safety stuff. So you got airbag info. And again, you can see sometimes it connects pretty damn quick. And this is going to be a lot faster in your hand. Again, I want to remind you, this is all going through the internet from California. The OPUS team, because here in New York, we're 7:15 already. There's no one here anymore. I think they stop at 6 if I'm not mistaken. This is the other crew out in California. So they're doing that. Drew is online with us, and he's making sure in the back end that hopefully nothing goes wrong. So we can display stuff, we can grid it, we can put it the way we want, we can go back to list, we stop the sensors, we go out, and we showed you the graphing before. Same with TPMS, you got the tire pressure warning sensor, and on Toyotas you could always get all the information that is pretty easy right up on the scan tool. Okay, so you got sensors here. Let's display all. It should give us information on the tire pressure stuff. I see all zeros there, not sure. Okay, so we'll show you a graph of 4. We can maximize it so you see all 4 on the screen that we didn't show you before. We'll minimize it, go back to list, stop all the sensors and go back. And then all the other systems. Look at all the other systems that is on the front end of the tool. So the high voltage battery, the CAN system, okay? The high voltage ECU, immobilizer, which many times is an issue with an immobilizer why a vehicle won't start. Let's go to the air conditioning system on here for a second. Let's talk about air conditioning and maybe just pop into AC. This has a 201 volt compressor, okay? If your shop is not equipped to work on this car correctly, you don't have the right stuff. And what do I mean by the right stuff? This car takes 134A, right? And most of you have a 134A machine. Newer vehicles, of course, are R1234YF. But when we're talking about a hybrid, we cannot use PAG oil. PAG oil that you used in all the other cars that you're servicing with 134A and in some 1234YF vehicles, you need a special oil. And if you do not have the right equipment, if you don't have a line flush type of AC machine, if you don't have an air sep unit that can separate the PAG oil so you don't ruin that compressor, the problem with a lot of these vehicles that you'll run into is something called an isolation fault. An isolation fault can occur from someone doing an air conditioning service. And you go, what do you mean? Well, if you get PAG oil in the system and that electric compressor has an issue with the windings because of the oil that you used, you have an isolation fault, it would either shut down that system, meaning the air conditioning system, or shut down the whole vehicle. Now that's not going to feel real good to you. I don't want to scare you. I just want you to be aware that these cars have been around for a while. Look, 2006 is 2021. Thank God that bad year of 2020 is gone. Let's hope 21's a way better one, right? But this car is pretty old. They're going to come in your shop. Have the right equipment. Have the right training. Here, we're not trying to do a training class here. I'm just trying to throw some tidbits out for you and show you the power of this tool, okay? So that is some of the info on the generic side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go out of here, and I'm going to show you something while you're looking at this screen. Let me put the tablet down. Now here's the great thing. When you go in to ask for diagnostic help, okay, you see first of all here you can do programming. So if you're familiar with the wrap, there was the wrap 1, now there's the wrap 2, great unit. This is a built-in wrap. They come on and they can do programming for you. They're going to tell you what you need to do, turn the power button on in this case, or if it's a key car, you know, make sure all accessories are off, make sure you have a battery maintainer on, all important, okay? But what we're going to do now is we're going to switch to the factory side of the tool. Now, I will warn you, you are not going to see this screen right here. We are seeing Drew's screen, okay? He does Asian and domestic cars. That's his job. Chris Martino, who we have on. I know Chris is real big with Audi and Volkswagen and probably does others as well, but I know he's really good with that. But you can see this Kia and stuff. There's a whole bunch of tools here, and they are all licensed. So I'm going to go into the TechStream, and this is the Toyota Factory tool. So we'll just let it get connected. Okay. All right, so here is the actual factory tool. If you needed help, this, and in my opinion, when it comes to hybrid vehicles, I happen to have this tool as well. It's the only thing that I'm going to use is the factory side on the high voltage, not the normal, you got a coil problem, you got a throttle position issue, you know, that's all simple stuff, right? When it comes to the high voltage end, it's really important. You want to make a decision on the battery. This has 28 sub-packs in there, 14 packs, okay? 201 volts is this battery pack, okay? You want to see if you have maybe a cell out of whack. What's going to be better than looking at the factory tool? This is the way to go, okay? You can do a whole bunch on a factory tool. These guys, of course, are not going to give you a training session, obviously. Their job is to help you diagnose and fix that car so you can make money and get it out of there, right? So we're going to take a peek at this thing. First thing we're going to do is we're going to connect the vehicle. Now again, it may take a little bit for the simple reason we are doing this remotely. We're not going to do the update. You notice here it wants updates. As I'm clicking past that and it's connecting, I do want to remind you of one thing. You all need to get an LSID license. So an LSID license, as I'm trying to reconnect here, an LSID license is basically a vehicle professional license, a VSP. Let me click past that. And if you don't have that, when you change a module on a vehicle like this, well, guess what? They're not going to be able to help you because you're going to have an issue. Does that make sense? So since we have an error here, I have to ask my buddy Drew online. And Drew, can you hear me there, Drew? You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I hear you. We're going to just go ahead and go to the setup here.
Okay. So Drew is taking over. I'm doing nothing. Look at this. What's better? Imagine doing this in your shop. And by the way, this is what really happens. They'll do stuff, and he's going to pick the VIM probably, or he's going to go in and see.
Go ahead and do that from there if you'd like.
Okay. And where would you like me to go into?
GDP3 is where it's at.
Okay. Hit OK?
Yes, sir. And now it should connect.
All right. And now we're going to connect to the vehicle. So you could see it's that easy with someone on walking you through. Okay. And it will connect. And we got to thank Drew for that. Let me hit that button one more time. And again, the slight delay, we're going to hit update later. And let's make sure it connects through. But as I was saying, you need an LSID license. If you don't have an LSID license, you put a new module in, you're going to have a problem. Okay? So it looks like we're still having a problem here, but he's going to fix it. So we're going to wait for him to fix it. The real world. You know, even though we did a run through, now they always tell you, you know, when it's live, we're live. Stuff happens. I bet stuff happens in your shop, doesn't it? I know stuff happens in my shop. So just bear with us, and maybe you have a question or something that I can take a peek out as he's doing this. Let me see. Can you change the range values for the data PID when you're graphing? If you're talking about the range values of metric or domestic, yes, you can. I got to see what other questions we have there. So you can type your questions in the question box. And there's probably other ones in there. Sometimes this is a little bit, I see a lot of you guys. Yes, Keith DeFazio is still working, and thank you for Happy New Year's. Keith is in North Carolina. I believe Keith does the Mercedes stuff. So when you need help with Mercedes, Keith is one of the guys besides Bob Beckman, the guy who handles it all. Let me see here, we got another question. Quick test button basically goes through and is going to do all the modules. We're going to kind of do that here with Toyota with Health Check in a second. For data PID graphing, you can only graph up to 4. You can graph any of the PIDs that you select, but you got to go in and out and 4 at a time as of now. They're making a bunch of good improvements, at least since I have the tool. They have really moved some stuff around, and it really seems to work pretty good. For most of your problems, the cars that come in, you're not even going to need to get to the side. But I know people like Paul, who just asked me, up there in Pawtucket, Massachusetts, okay, how are you, Paul? Happy New Year. I know that this is a great tool for you, because if you're going around doing a lot of different cars, this thing can get you out of a bind. And it's really nice when you got someone behind you. And let's see if our guys got this going. All right, let's try it the 4th time. But again, live stuff. Let's hope it works now. Because once it goes in, which it looks like you just did, yep, we're all good. Thank you so much, Drew. So basically here, and again, you wouldn't have to do this. They would ask you, does it have Smart Key? Because that's one option that comes up. Here's our real VIN number off the car, okay? Now we're just gonna hit next, and it's going to tell me how many modules are on this vehicle. And again, this is the factory tool. You can do everything through here, including if you needed to program the vehicle. So here's the first place you should always start, Health Check. Okay? If I get a vehicle that comes in, it's going to tell us how many ECUs we have on board. Do we want to check them? Yada, yada, yada. We're going to hit next. And now it's going to go through and query 16 computers. And these 16 computers that are on this vehicle, we're going to see if it needs an update, if there are any codes in there. Now, unfortunately, this car did have a problem, and the battery went dead on it. So any codes that were in here for like low battery voltage or whatever are out of here. But let's take a look. We're going to give you a view through everything here on the tool. The other part, you guys are pretty well aware of generic stuff, and I'm going to take a peek right now if there's any other questions. Will it work with all manufacturers? I believe they have just about every manufacturer out there, okay? All the main ones I know. So you could do Mercedes. You can do BMW, Audi, Honda, GM. In fact, there was a great one I did with another guy out of California. I can't remember his name right now, but an OPUS guy, where one of my students came down, and I had to leave him outside during the pandemic. Okay, yeah, the bad part of it, this was back in April. In fact, my shop was closed. My guys winded up getting COVID. I already had it prior to that, but make a long story short, he came down. He was trying to work on a GM car with a steering angle sensor that he resetted with his, let's say, name brand tool. He had a second high name brand tool, so 2 name brand tools, said they reset the steering angle sensor. You know what happened on this Cadillac? And it was, I think, a 16 or so. The seat was all the way back like this, and the steering wheel, that's how the guy had to drive it down here. No real lines for the camera, and the rear camera wouldn't work. And obviously, the steering wheel and stuff was not straight. Every scan tool, and I'm not going to go through the list of scan tools, aftermarket tools that I have here. I threw every one on there. Not one of them were able to fix the problem. I was going to pull out my GDS software. Then I said, hold it. I got this OPUS ES tool. Let me show him how this works. So I said to Greg, watch this. I'm not even going to do anything. I'm going to put this little service call in. They got on there. They reset the whole thing. Without the factory tool, you could not get that Cadillac back with the seat being right, the steering wheel being right, the steering angle sensor set correctly, and the rear view camera working with all the lines on it as well. So that's the power of having a factory tool and a guy on the other end who knows what he's doing. Because remember, this is, like I said, this is just not a scan tool. This is like an advanced hotline with someone who gets on your damn tool. You see, we had a problem there. They did it. I didn't do it. They fixed it, okay, which is really nice. So let's go down the list here. You can see monitors are incomplete. So if we hit that, we're going to see. And by the way, I do want to remind you, you are not going to see this part of the tool. We are doing this for the webcast. So you can see the monitors are, the catalyst is incomplete, okay? These are incomplete monitors here. Why? Because the vehicle didn't run. And one thing I do like that Toyota does with monitor status, you see this here? This is fuel misfire or misfire fuel and comprehensive component. You see the little loop? Means it's always running. It's never ready. You guys that are familiar with GM, if you worked at a GM dealer, well, the Tech 2 never showed you fuel misfire or comprehensive component because they're always running. We're always worried about the non-continuous monitors, like the O2 sensor. Every OBD2 car has to have the O2 sensor, the heated O2. The catalyst, those are all mandatory, 1996 and up here in the US. For my buddy Ross and all the rest of my friends up there in Canada, 1998 and up. Then they added EVAP. Secondary air some cars have, EGR, VVT, and you notice Toyota likes putting thermostat right there. The thermostat monitor was added back in 2000, okay? It was supposed to be PCV, but that didn't happen there. So now we're going to go back and we're going to look at the rest of the data. We're going to see that the calibration code right here, there's no update needed. There's no configuration needed. Now, this right here is cha-ching, because if there is an update, you want to see what the update is, they could tell you, hey, this car needs this particular reprogramming, like a lot of them had P0420s. The best thing for you to do is install that update and ask them for the report so you can show it to your customer. Every time we use the guys, they're kind enough to either give us a screenshot or the report shot, so then we can give it to the customer. That makes you look good that you have the factory tool for that customer's car. Does that make sense? So it's another important feature here. So all the rest of these don't have a code, but you see an air conditioning code. You guys know why this code is current. And if you click on this code, it is a B1421. It's going to be a sun load sensor. It is going to be something that, there you go, solar sensor, so sun load sensor. Fluorescent lights in your shop are going to cause this to come on all the time. You're not going to erase it because it's going to come right back. It's nothing to worry about. So you maybe want to be aware of that if you were working on this car. And obviously, a Prius is more complicated, right? Has more stuff in it. Any hybrid has more stuff than a regular car. But a sun load sensor could be on any of their cars. It doesn't have to be a hybrid car. So be aware of that as well. Let's go back to the stored data. And let's go into engine to show you. First of all, look at the data list. Now, the important thing that's going to be really good on this is going to be, number one, we got all our readings, but we want to have the most bi-directional control as possible, correct? So you're going to see that in a second. And look at the list. Has a scroll bar on the bottom that you can scroll across to see all of the information, okay? So you can see that you have quite a few screens here. You can see, even here, if you had misfires, it'd tell you misfires. Catalyst temperature on a stone cold car, okay? There is the catalyst temperature. So it is a calculation, basically. You can also record a movie by hitting the record button, just like on any other scan tool. You can graph. So if I want to graph something like calculated load would be something that I want to graph, and maybe math. So we got our graph up there with these two, and you can graph up to 6 of them, okay? Ooh. If you want to overlap them, that's putting them all up on one graph. And you could see here by the bottom that we could have up to, I think it's 8 of them up there. You can put 8 of them up. So pretty good information there. Let's go back to live data. I know what happened there. That's because I'm on a custom data list. Cancel that list. Let's go into active test. So some of the tests that you can do on a factory tool are going to be a bit more than most scan tools. You can see you can do stuff with the water valves, you can do the vacuum vent solenoid, you can do the whole bunch of executions here and look at the data at the same time. You can go directly into the monitor. Utilities. So here you have check mode. Now a lot of times this stuff comes really handy. It says, welcome to check utility mode. This function will do the following. Allow 2-trip logic DTCs to be set in 1 trip. Remember, we had this on the OPUS part of it. Right? We had this on the generic end of the tool, not even being in an enhanced end. So there are some really neat stuff that you can do. You can put up other lists here if I want a hybrid battery list up. So now I'm going to have the engine up top and my hybrid stuff right on the bottom. Real good for diagnosing. And of course, you can scroll through all the data. You can see as I am moving it this way. And same goes for the hybrid stuff on the bottom. And we'll go into the hybrid stuff because that's the real fun and important part here. We'll close that. It's always a good idea to close the stuff that you're in. And let's go into hybrid control, show you the difference with hybrid control. And then we'll go to the high voltage battery. So here's the data list. And notice it would always show you if you had any codes in there. And here's our data list. And it's pretty extensive, okay, on all the different things that you can see there. But notice, this is the hybrid control. Notice there's no battery information there. That's because we're not in the hybrid battery. So we're going to go back and show you that and spend a little bit of time on the hybrid battery. And of course, a mobilizer, programming, all of that neat stuff that you can do. So, do you guys know what to look for if you're looking for a hybrid battery? And a lot of these are failing big time. These are going down like there's no tomorrow because any battery, now here and in California, okay, we are 10 years, 150,000 mile warranty, okay. Most of these are 8 years, 80,000 mile. But here, if a hybrid battery goes dead and it's in that warranty period, it would get done for free. So how do you know if you got a problem? Well, sometimes obviously you're going to get a code, but how about if this thing's not getting the right miles per gallon? You know, you got a lot of people driving around with Priuses and, you know, they're only getting like 40 miles a gallon. And it's like, what the hell are you driving this thing for? 40 miles a gallon? That's peanuts. Now, I also have a Chevy Volt that I get 162, 158. That's a car, okay? If you're going to talk about driving that's an extended range vehicle. But these things should be getting 60 or so. And for them to get 60 or so, obviously, you're going to need, like driving like an old lady, obviously, you're going to need a good battery in the car. So let's look at some battery data. And I want you to look right here. See if you can pull in on that. And you're going to notice these battery blocks, okay? We have a maximum battery block maximum voltage 16.58. Minimum 16.38, okay? So when you look at minimum and maximum, and there's the minimum, okay? These are important numbers to look at. And notice there was 14 block numbers. So you see how you have 1 through 14? These are all the battery cells because I told you these are packs. Packs are 2 sub-packs. In a sub-pack, there are 6 cells. And basically on this Toyota, you're looking at about 1.2 volts per cell that are in a sub-pack. Then they put 2 of them together. This is how you have what they call a block number, okay? And with 201 volts in this Prius, first of all, right away I can tell, I look at the high number versus the low number. How about if you only had 12 or 13, okay? If you had only 12 or 13, you would have a problem going on. Does that make sense? So you wouldn't want to let that car out the door. Also, you notice the resistance. It's also another important feature to look at the resistance of this. Let's slide it over a little bit. And you could see the internal resistance of all of these are 19. This happens to be a remanned battery in this vehicle that I'm testing for dormant. It's been in here well over a year without a problem. So just checking that out, and it's going pretty damn good. Now, one of the things that I would like you to do is when you go to graph, if you went down and selected, of course the blind man here has to block, there's the maximum. I'm trying to find the minimum. It's here somewhere. Give me a second. I passed it, right? There we go. Gonna have to start using my glasses soon, you know what I'm saying? So if we look at these two, we could see, by the way, even overlaying them, that the voltage does change somewhat because the car is on. And it's just graphing it out. But always when you graph, look at your scaling numbers. It's not really changing a lot. It looks like a huge change, doesn't it? You're only going from 1653 max to 1660. It's not a huge change. That's the whole scale. So you could graph out some neat stuff. You can see if you have any problems. You can do a test. Now, a lot of times people think, you know, there's a lot of bidirectional on this car. There is one bidirectional thing on the Prius. This is the fan. So I know with other scan tools, people have freaked out and said, well, they didn't give me anything for the high voltage. On this particular car, there's not much you're going to do other than making sure the fan. This has an air system in it that fan needs to blow. Has a bunch of different speeds. You probably won't be able to hear it. But if I put this on, we'll do the bidirectional test, you would want to take the actual battery temperature, and let me see if I can see the auxiliary fan voltage. If I looked at battery temperature, like right here, you see it's 63, 61. I'm just going to highlight those, and I'm going to put the fan on. I'm on fan speed 1, and I'm going to go all the way up to 6. We'll just leave it on. I'll just go take a listen. It's blowing, but hard for you, obviously, to hear out there. You would want to see if that temperature changes. Okay, since the ambient temperature in here is pretty much what that car is, because the back is opened up with the maintainer on it. Okay, but this is something that you'd want to see, that the battery is cooling down. You know, these older ones had the fan in a different position. It was on the right rear quarter panel, okay? And that airflow going through wasn't as good as the new ones where they have it right on the battery. So some of the neat trick stuff that you can do here. And again, you know the other nice thing? With this tool, you're not paying, if I'm not mistaken, I think my subscription is like $1,000 a year for Toyota. Okay, then if you take Chrysler, if you take Ford, whoa, this is a lot of money. This tool is reasonably priced, and if you guys shoot us an email if you haven't done this, we're going to send this over to the OPUS people, and we'll be able to get you a great deal on this tool. Okay, $299 a month after you buy the tool is the tech support. So we have people like Drew on there, okay? Or like you mentioned, DeFazio or Chris Martino, and a whole bunch. You got so many people working for them. These guys, I know Tom, who does the European stuff for years. These guys are experts in their field, and they get right on with the tool. We did one on a brand new, I think it was a 17 or 18, the control head on an Audi went out, and it's pretty common on them. It was covered under warranty. We got the job from, I think it was Repair Pal. The people had bought it at one of those big used car sell places, and they recommended the people here. Well, we could have done it different ways. I have the OPUS software. I could have went on and just did it myself. But I said, you know what? I'm busy. I'm going to let one of the other techs get on this tool, press a button, contact them. They got back, did the whole thing 1, 2, 3 without a problem. That's what you're paying for. Remember, our time, the only thing we have in this auto repair business is our time to sell. We sell parts, make money on that, right? But time is of the essence. And if you have the right tools and the right people behind you, you'd be surprised the money you can make, okay? I'm going to open this up now to some Questions? And again, I do want to remind you that you're not going to see this. This is for the webcast. You're going to see this. And the screen may go black because I know a couple of times, a lot of the guys know me on the other end, but some of the times where the guy didn't know me, I'm not going to break his noodles, we couldn't see what he was doing. And we've tested this out on Chryslers, on GMs, on Fords, on BMWs. In fact, we just had this on an Active 7 750i BMW hybrid, okay? And these guys were really good. They were right on target with the information. My experience has been, out of, let's say, all the calls we did, I was 100% satisfied. One, I was about 75% satisfied. But that's not bad. Sometimes your satisfaction is based on what you feel. These guys can get you out of a bind. It's a great tool. I'm going to look at some questions right now, or comments. Okay, so they provide the service using TechStream as part of the OPUS support. That is correct. That is absolutely correct. So they have someone there that is a Toyota expert or a whatever car company you're working on expert. So they provide this service, that's what you're paying for. Now, I've heard from some of my students, guys like you that have purchased this, that are real happy. They said they even got them other information they couldn't find, like in a service information system. If we can't see the side of the tool while you're showing the screens, to show you what they're doing in the background, and that's a good question. I'm showing you what they do in the background because you don't have this tool, and this is a very easy tool. Toyota, by far, is a piece of cake. And what I mean by it's a piece of cake, it is very easy to operate. I could probably teach someone in probably 10 minutes. It's really that simple. I mean, there's some little nuances here and there, but overall, it is an easy tool. Now, you get into some other tools, you're going to need to know buttonology. You know, you get on Engstry, which is the Mercedes tool. You get on Vita. You get on the BMW tool, ISTA. Those are tough tools. And Joel, I know you'll attest to this, that the Volkswagen Audi tool is not a piece of cake either, right? So, yeah. So that was the reason I'm showing you the back end, as they call this is the back end of the tool. They're not going to show you this. They're just going to help you diagnose and fix the car. Does that make sense? Do we have any other questions? So you request assistance through the tool, and basically they have guys that they know will come on and actually get you through the problem. They launch it themselves. They'll just tell you, make sure the power button in this case is on, or the key's on, put a maintainer on the vehicle. And if you guys don't own a maintainer, I believe they are also selling maintainers. So they could hook you up. The wrap, like I have the wrap as well, the wrap 2, has a built-in maintainer where you just connect battery cables. Here, you would have to purchase that, and it's really not that expensive. What is the correct what is the correct voltage hybrid battery? Well, this one is 201 volts, and you would want to see somewhere, remember there's always like surface charge, residual charge, just like a 12-volt battery, sometimes has like 13.2, 13.6 without the vehicle running. In this case, the 201 volts, if you break it down into the packs, you start seeing anything under the 15s, getting down into the 14s, you're on the bare bones of what that battery is supposed to be doing. There's got to be a problem there. A lot of problems on these hybrids is oxidation, okay? There's something called the bus bar. Now, when this battery was reconditioned by Dorman, they put all new bus bars on. When I have my own machine to recondition, I have to clean up the bus bars, take them all apart and clean them up. And sometimes the nuts or the bus bar pieces themselves are no longer usable, and I have to get donor pieces because it's very difficult to buy any new stuff. Toyota won't sell it to you. Now, you can always buy a new Toyota pack right from the dealer as well. Okay. The price of the OPUS tool. Ooh. Chris, can you, if you're on, Chris, you're still on, I think you are. Can you type that in? I'm going to give you a ballpark because I don't see him typing it in. I'm going to say it's somewhere about $5-6 grand. Let's say $6 grand, $299 a month is what you would pay for the service. The service is important. After you buy the tool is yours, but you get the updates and you get all the tech support, and that's important. Now, I think there's another question there. Why do you need an LSID license? Well, if you're changing a module on the other side, and I did this recently, and again, I got a guy on the OPUS side that didn't know who I was. Not that I'm anybody, but obviously I know quite a few people, right? So he said, hey, we can't program that module, we need your LSID. So I had to say, well, look at the record, look at my record, and you'll see that the LSID info is there. Once he found that information under the account, he was able to program the car. So that's why you need one, otherwise they can't help you, okay? So I know at one point, and they may still be doing this, when you get the tool, they'll assist you in filling out the 3 pages to get a LSID license. If you don't have one, you're not going to be able to work on vehicles in the future. Now, the other thing I want you to be aware of, let's say you're on a Chrysler vehicle. You all heard about the gateways that you can't get through. Well, you know, you're going to need to go to AutoAuth. AutoAuth is a website to register your tool. And it's only registers tools, all the big names, if they're an online tool. If you have poor internet in your shop, you need to turn into a little bit of a geek nowadays and learn how to do Wi-Fi in your shop or hire someone. But you're going to need good Wi-Fi. Like here, we have 2 different internet services. We have Fios with 1 gig internet, and I have a special 1 gig wireless router, okay? And we also have Comcast, okay? And Comcast, I think they don't have the super high speed yet in this building, but we're on their 300 meg, I think. So obviously, if one internet goes down, the other internet goes up. Also, be careful with a lot of your security settings. You know, if your security settings are wrong when you go to program something, or they go to program it for you, there may be an issue. Let's see if we got anything else. Okay. So if there are no other questions, oh, there are. Okay. Is this tool supported outside the US? Now that is a good question. I believe it is up in Canada. Now, you know, I don't work for the company, so I'm not 100% sure, but if I'm not mistaken, they do this up in Canada. I'm not sure anywhere else in the world. Can they load factory tools so I can use it without support? I don't believe they do that. I believe they will walk you through all the steps. Again, that's something, and these are good questions. All these questions, by the way, that part is being recorded. If your name is in there, or your email, when I post this up, with their permission, I can get the answers to those questions. I'm not 100% sure. I don't believe that they, you know, will allow you to use the tool like I did here tonight. Do they need your login details? Well, you'll have your own login, like on this tool. You're going to see it basically says here, welcome G. Jerry, and I'm logged in, I can log out. So let her just focus that. So you see my name up there, and your tool will be registered to you. Your serial number is in the back of the tool, and that's how they would have you log in. When you hit the tech support, they know that it's you, they'll call you back. Usually about 15 minutes has been our experience, or less. How quickly to respond? About 15 minutes. And by the way, that is not bad. That's quicker than I can get some of my guys to walk their butt across the shop, right? So that's pretty damn good that someone gets back to you that fast. Can support tech logs into your laptop and use your own factory software? I don't know, and I wouldn't think so. There may be a liability there. All their software is basically resides on their servers or their computers. What we're doing here through my laptop over there, they are connected through the tool, but it's really all their stuff. That is not my software. I don't have Toyota on that laptop. It's all their stuff. So about $6,000 and about $299 a month. Oh, that's Chris. Okay, so there you go. Thank you, Chris. Chris Martino. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are the Audi Volkswagen specialist, right? If I'm not mistaken. And then programming is $125. Okay. And what does it say there? For example, 3 modules needed. You would 3 modules, 125 times 3, or 125 total. I think for the car, and again, one of you great Opus guys, or Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's one charge for programming even multiple modules. Okay. I understand correctly, generic is the factory tool. If I understand this correctly, anything other than generic is factory tool menu. There's no Opus menu. No, there is. This full thing, Opus owns Auto Ingenuity. Now, I've used Auto Ingenuity for years. I know Jay Horak for years. It was a good tool, but it was a little clunky. And what do I mean a little clunky? Oh, it was hard to find bidirectionals. Well, Opus bought Auto Ingenuity, and they have some great engineers besides still Jay and a couple of his main people. They have taken the tool and made it, as you've seen I was doing in the beginning, big buttons, easy to use, you know, bidirectionals right there. You don't have to go pull some crazy menu down, move some stuff over. Very, very easy to use tool. You don't need, I would say most of the time, you don't even need to get into the factory side of the tool. But what's happening nowadays? Vehicles are more complex. With more complex vehicles, you're going to need to get in with the factory tool. Like I said, this is no lie. I don't work on any hybrid vehicle on the high voltage side without going into the factory tool. Some of you guys I know out there, I've seen your names, you've been in my hybrid classes. You know I let you do a scan tool shootout. You can pick, I got every name tool you can think of here. You could see where they all go wrong. The factory tool, when it comes to high voltage and expensive stuff, it's the only thing I'm going to trust, okay? So that's why you really need these guys here. Unlimited tech support in the subscription, that is correct as far as I know. And again, if not, I think Chris would tell me I'm wrong. So what is the warranty on the Drive Pro ES? Boy, these are all great things. I don't even know that one. Chris, could you assist? I think if you're paying the subscription, I bet I see what he says. $6,000, $299 a month, and they'll support for your tool and other tools in your shop as well. No, I don't know who's that from. No, $6,000 and $299 a month is the support on this. Will they help you on other stuff if you're on a different tool? I was told they will, and again, I have to defer to them. That is another great question. We haven't asked them about that because, you know, when I'm running a beta test on something, I want to see what their tool, what it's going to do for me, what it's going to do for my guys in my shop. Obviously, myself and Bill, you know, master techs. Franklin is a pretty good tech, and then we got the kid. He's the experiment. He didn't know what spokes were on a bicycle. So when he can get on and they can help him, that impresses the hell out of me because I can make money off someone that doesn't have a lot of experience. He has 1 year, a little over 1 year here he's been with us. You don't have much experience on hybrids, but how would you know if a hybrid battery pack is no longer good? Okay. Now, you know, good thing you brought that question up because one of the things I also want to explain. They have a little rule at OPUS for tech support on high voltage. Whether it be an electrical vehicle extended range or a hybrid, they're going to ask you for something like your L3, that's the ASE Hybrid Electric Vehicle Certificate, or if you've been to like one of my training classes or other training classes that they deem as a good class that would give you some experience, they're going to ask you if you have the high voltage class 0, 1000 volt gloves and covers. But how would I know that it is a bad battery? If the voltages were more than about 200 to 300 millivolts from the highest to the lowest, about 300 or so, and if they're all over the place, one pack is 16, one is 10, one is 14, one is 17, you know, if they're all over, that's a good way to tell. Do you need a fast Wi-Fi in the shop? Well, this brand new tablet that they have is basically good for even 5G connection. If you have sucky Wi-Fi, you know, there are enough companies out there that have now 5G even sell, you can get a hotspot if that's maybe only what you can get. If not, nowadays you need good Wi-Fi in your shop. You know, behind me, we have a couple of monitors that we have all our information, all data, ProDemand, MotoLogic, Denafix, you know, Diag.net, IATN, all this stuff. We're on the internet at high speed because you need info and you need it now. We also have Surface tablets, okay? So my guys have Surface tablets. We can put all the shop information on there. We do ROs from there. But the big thing is you can look stuff up right away. So if you got a tech bulletin or whatever, you can pull it up. So get yourself some good Wi-Fi is a good thing. Support works out to be $10 a day. You get a master tech in your bay for $10 a day. That Chris, yeah. So Chris, while I have you there, they asked if you give support for other tools. Let's say they're on the red tool, okay? If someone is diagnosing something with a different scan tool and they have your tool, do you guys help them? You get access, while we're waiting, do you get access to the OEM tool? You get access through the back end. They do it for you, okay? You could ask for a printout. We get them all the time. So in other words, without you doing the work, if I want that screenshot that we were on the factory scan tool, I get that screenshot. When we did that Audi with the radio, we got a whole report from Otis. We got the whole report and screenshots. The customer is impressed. Guess where they're coming when they have a problem with their vehicle, okay? And we do the same thing for years, okay? Even using AutoLogic, we used to save all the screens. We give it to them. But I think nowadays it's more impressive if you have a real problem with the car that you get on and get the factory report. First of all, even if you're dealing, I don't know if there's any body shop guys on, but do you know a lot of body shops, the insurance companies like Subaru, they will not accept an aftermarket scan tool reading. So what's that mean? They're going to have to get on with the factory tool. Now they have another part of the company, and I forgot what it's called. It's rather than ES, it's probably called something else. Rather than Drive Pro, maybe Collision Pro, whatever. And Chris, you can help me with that one. So do you still have to collect the vehicle's authorization for VSP? You bet. That is another good, so vehicle service professional. Now, you know, that is important because the owner has to give you the authorization. So what we had to do is get the paperwork and have the lady who owned that Audi fill it all out, just like we do any other time, and that way it's all there. Now I know that is a big pain in the butt. I have a lot of students and friends that are mobile techs, and they go, that is a big pain. Hey, this is what it's coming to. You have to put all your ducks in a row. If you charge enough money, you're going to make money, right? So you got to do the paperwork, unfortunately, and you should log all this stuff. Now I can tell you that if you don't do it the right way, you may lose your LSID or VSP. So make sure you do it the right way. Is there a fee per car along with the $299 a month? No, you can connect as many cars. The only fee that there is if you program. That's $125. And Chris, can you tell us how are repairs handled on a tool? Does it repair a cracked screen? Well, I think if your BFH hits it, your big freaking hammer, I'm sure they're not going to repair that. But let's see if Chris can help us out. Chris, how about a cracked screen, a broken handle, a unit not working? Is there anything on that? And by the way, I will get you guys some of the answers for this stuff. Real good questions. You know, we did this impromptu here.
This is actually answering the question.
How are repairs handled for the tool? Does the monthly service covers it like a cracked screen? And what did Chris say? You can't.
But if you want, we can pull in all and we'll answer the questions live. This way you don't have to answer them. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you can get in touch with them. They'll answer them for you. But I will scroll through some of these. I will speak to the people at OPUS and try to get you all the answers that you need. Again, in my personal opinion, this is a must-have tool in today's shop. Okay? And I, again, am not getting paid to do this. All right? I'm doing this through TST, and I'm telling you here in my shop, this tool is phenomenal. I think it'll be phenomenal for you. Before we go, because there are some things coming up, there is PAVE coming up. You guys know what PAVE is? In fact, Chris Martino will be teaching at PAVE, won't you, Chris? So you could go to pavetraining.com, and that is this weekend coming up. I think it is Friday the 9th, 10th, 11th. 3 days. Well, you go, whatever the Friday is.
8, 9, 10.
I think it's 8, 9, 10. Well, no, I don't get my days straight. But it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You may see me or hear me on there as a moderator. And plenty of my good friends are teaching. You got Bernie Thompson, you got Thornton, you got Manna, you got a whole bunch of people. These are great classes. You need to update so you don't evaporate. Then also coming up in the middle of the month, we have TST and Motor Age doing classes. And by the way, if you miss them, if you're like me, I can't sit through 3 days. My brain will go sour. I barely can stand here and stand myself for an hour or so, right? So you're going to get weeks to view it. Same with the PAVE, same with Motor Age. And now we're going to get to, OPUS is always one of our great sponsors, so we're going to talk about the TST big event. And due to the crazy pandemic, okay, we are going out 2 days. We're going to mail out your tablets. Now, you guys up in Canada, you guys in Brazil, Australia, Italy, because I know we have probably about 6, 7 foreign countries. We cannot mail your tablet out. There's no way of us tracking it. They can get lost, but everyone in the U.S., your tablets will be mailed to you. You guys will send you a gift card, I think through Amazon is what we kind of decided. That way you can buy the tablet, have Amazon send you one, whatever the case may be, okay? But we're doing 3 good classes on Saturday. We start out with Scott Manna, and we were going to do this live in person, but due to the pandemic, it ain't happening. We will also have Bobby Grzinski, Bobby G, an ex-Ford engineer, and his last probably 12 or 14 years, Bobby G was a Volkswagen Audi OBD2 engineer, real smart guy, going to give you some real good inside information. And then you will get my crazy great friend, John Anello. He will be up as cleanup in the afternoon. Sunday, we have some great management stuff for you for a couple hours. My buddy Vin Waterhouse will be doing some great management stuff because you know what? Without management, now I know it's not for all the tech guys, without management, you guys can't be here, wouldn't have the guys working for you in your shop, can't buy this OPUS tool, okay? You need to get on track and make sure you can manage your shop correctly. And then we'll give you another 3-hour or better training class. And I think at this point, you may have to put up with me. It'll be something that you haven't seen, some new good stuff, and it may be on car. We are discussing that with the TST board now. I'd like to thank you for coming out tonight to see the OPUS Drive Pro ES tool. Okay. Sorry I didn't know the answers to all your questions, but you could see how easy this is. And again, a lot faster when you have this here and then not logging in remotely. Does that make sense? So on behalf of TST, the OPUS ES, I hope you picked a few things up tonight. I want to thank you for your time. See you next time around.